Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Nichole Carlson, who is the founder of Nichole Carlson Coaching. Welcome to the program, Nichole.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey, so give us a little bit of your background and what led you to feel like, okay, at this point in my life and career, I need to begin coaching, and then what type of coaching are you focused on?
Well, it all kind of wraps into my story, and when I was in my 20s, I, had the American dream. I went to college, and right out of college, I got married, and I did all the things that you were supposed to do. And we got a house, and I was a software engineer, and we were making good money. And the thing of it is I was feeling so empty and so disconnected that I didn't know what to do, and it was making me miserable because honestly, I didn't know what else I could get or do to be happy because, on the outside, it looked as though I had everything. And on the inside, I was falling apart. And because I was so empty, my marriage was falling apart, and it was really taking its toll on me. So I was in that relationship for about 12 years, and near the end of it, my mom called and said that she had cancer, and she was only 47. And she died less than a year later, and I realized that, life is so, so short, and I've been living this way for a very long time, and I've got to do something. And not knowing, I didn't know what I know now, and so I had just suppressed those feelings for so long that by that time I jumped ship, and I got a divorce, and I sold my house. And then one day I realized that still wasn't enough, and I quit my job, and I sold my car an hour later, and the next day I was on a one-way ticket to Spain. And I was terrified. I don't want to say that any of that was easy. Every single thing was a really difficult decision, but I felt like it wasn't working. So I left, and I traveled for a really long time. And I even got to the point where I was homeless and eating out of dumpsters. And I was happy. I was really happy, because I finally was able to connect to myself. I figured out what makes me happy, because I had near nothing. And the thing of it is, I was standing in line at a soup kitchen, and I realized, it hit me, that there was a time where I had it all and I was miserable. And now that I had nothing, I knew what it took to be happy. I realized that, and I realized one more thing, that I didn't want to live my life being homeless. And so I made a decision right then to go back and rebuild my life, knowing now what it takes to be happy, with that foundation and building on that. And that is exactly what I did. And what I find a lot of people are missing is that happiness and that fulfillment. And I'm still, a go-getter. I'm a high performer. I love building my business and working with my clients. And I'm also doing a bodybuilding competition. So,
and when do you sleep with all of this going on?
Right? But I think a lot of us are like that, where we love the growth, right? Yep. We love the improvement and the challenge. But I think that there's a distinction from where I was back then and where I am now. And the distinction is, before I was unfulfilled and I was going for these things to fill that void. And now I'm going for these things, for the growth, for the challenge, to see the progress. And I think that makes such a difference because I'm so much happier. And I started coaching because I see in like so many other people that they're still struggling with what I was struggling with, 15 years ago, where they don't know what to do. They don't know what's going to fulfill them. And I just have so much like empathy and passion for, I have empathy for them because, we're doing what society says we're supposed to do, and we're still kind of like, what else?
Like treading water.
Yes.
So, couple thoughts popped into my mind when you were talking about that intro. One is, do you know the story about Cortez and burned the boats?
Yes.
So It sounded like, you quit your job, you did this, you all of these things, and it's like those boats were burned. You had no way back. And then it reminded me too of the phrase, I forget who originally you can attribute it to, but when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. In other words, if you had just removed one of those things, you still would have been okay. Like the old story about the farmer that had a friend come up to him on the porch and go, "Hey, how's it going?" And his dog looks up and howls, and every few seconds he would howl and howl, but he never moved. And he goes, "What's wrong with your dog?" He goes, "Oh, he's just laying on a nail." And he goes, "Well, how come he doesn't move?" And he goes, "Well, it doesn't hurt that bad." So you hadn't got to the point where it hurt bad enough to make a big change. But then when you said eliminate, delete, you started from scratch. And then that kind of allowed you to go, okay, clean slate, now what?
Yeah. And I suppressed it for so long. And you just tolerate this pain for so long, and you keep saying that you're okay because, everyone else is doing it. Everyone else, this is the example that everyone else around us is setting. Not that anybody's at fault, but it's just the way we are. Everything's okay. And then when we're really honest with ourselves, then these things come up. But we stay so busy that it's hard to sit and be honest with ourselves.
So if someone was listening to this and they wanted a quick do-it-yourself tip, and they don't want to go and quit everything they're doing and take a trip to Spain and just replant themselves somewhere, what's the first place that you would recommend? Okay, start here, analyze this, do that.
This is exactly why I got into coaching, because they don't have to do that. This is my lesson. Yep. So thanks for pointing that out. I would say start cutting out things that are just keeping you busy so that you can connect with those feelings that are telling you that something needs to change. And they're very uncomfortable, and this is why we stay so busy. But we need to connect to those feelings because they're telling us something. They're telling us, hey, look at our relationship. There's something going on. You need to take care of this. Our anxiety is telling us, hey, look at your business or your career. It's not quite in alignment with you. You need to check that out. And if we can just sit and feel those feelings and connect with those and figure out what we need to do based on those feelings, then you can make shifts instead of jump the ship. And it makes it so much easier because I don't recommend my method, the one I did. So, yeah. Absolutely. Just sit and connect to those feelings.
Good. And I think one thing that I think of when you mention that is connect with the feelings, sit and all of that, but put yourself in a position where you're not going to be distracted or even mentally distracted, like turn the phone off, don't sit in front of your computer, get somewhere, even remote, unfamiliar. Maybe it's a different Starbucks, because sometimes people even think best when there's a little activity going on around them. Some people might need to go and, sit in the park, but I think that's a a big piece is we find ourselves going, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then you start going, oh, I've been sitting here for like 12 seconds. I need to do something else. You need to figure out a way to just kind of analyze where you're not getting distracted.
Exactly. And that's such a great point. If you can go out to a park or go fishing or do something where you can just kind of allow these thoughts and feelings to come up instead of being occupied, then that's so much better. And like journaling is really good, and meditation is good, but I think that meditation is still like, it's now an activity that we do, and so that doesn't always get as deep as we need. But yeah, spending some time alone and sitting with these and then figuring out, hey, okay, so we actually need to take action here because this is painful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Don't view it as a box to check off, like, okay, meditation, check. Okay, found my life purpose, check. Because it really isn't a thing you do. It's almost like part of the journey, and maybe there's some elements that can be shifted around and changed as you even proceed. So it's not like one thing. Here's a question. Why do successful people tend to struggle with one certain thing or another certain thing? Like, do you see patterns? Do you see things when you work with some of your clients where it's like, you know what, this thing just comes up very frequently where successful people are struggling with this?
Yeah, they struggle with gosh, there's so many patterns, honestly. But they struggle with finding that fulfillment.
Yeah. And
I think it's because we have been taught all our lives that if we check off the boxes, that everything's going to be okay. This is, and even like the people I listen to, there's nothing wrong with this, but they say, okay, find a model, follow that model, and then you'll also be successful. And that is great. But if that model doesn't align with you, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think that we get distracted by what other people tell us to do so often. And, we do this in our relationships, we do this in our business, and with our health, we're always looking for diets, when if we just like relax and think, okay, what does my body need, and what do I feel like eating, and and just kind of pace it out, then everything kind of just falls into place as long as we're listening to ourselves. And I think that's the hardest thing, is to listen to ourselves.
Yeah. So I would suspect also that you have found that a lot of high-performing, successful people might think, I'm doing just fine. But what's a trigger for them to go, I am doing just fine, but I noticed this. I recognize that. I wonder if, some external outside coaching could help, because that external perspective really is valuable.
I think it's a lot of being honest with yourself and feeling those feelings, because I suppressed those feelings for so long because I thought so I was married, these are the problems that married people have, and it's not that bad. So if you're actually saying it's not that bad, that should be like an alarm for you.
Yeah.
That something is that bad. You're actually trying to convince yourself of something that's not true. So whenever that phrase goes through my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. But yeah, just allowing those feelings to come up. And then when those feelings come up, know that feeling means that you need to take action and do something different. And, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and we just accept these things. So we need to stop accepting these things and start realizing, okay, this means we need to do something different.
And, you mentioned stress, and we could do a 4-hour program on that word alone, but there is good kind of stress. Like if you're in a third quarter push for this launch you're doing in your business, you're going to feel some stress, but that might be a good kind of stress because you're just like on point and you're just rolling right along. The bad kind of stress is frantic, this is never going to work out, things like that. So how do you help people recognize how to handle that stress and move through it?
Well, it depends on a lot of things, but it really, if they are getting distracted or they have shiny object syndrome or they're procrastinating, if those things are actually hindering their progress, then we take a look at those things and why those things are coming up. I had a client in December who just had so much stress and anxiety that we couldn't even really hold a conversation without her just being so distracted. And we worked together, and she was making $20K months, which to a lot of people that sounds like great, but inside she was a mess. She was very distracted. And she wasn't able to spend time with her family. Even when she turned off the computer to be with her family, she couldn't be present. And she knew that she was supposed to be making at least double of what she was making, but she had no capacity because she had so much stress. And after working together, she was able to. Now she's making $45K a month, and she has that flow and ease, and she can turn off the computer at 7 and be with her family and watch her little girl grow up. And it's just, the next level is peace. The next level is joy and taking care of yourself. And if you're in that stress and anxiety, then that needs to be turned off so that you can get to that next level.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because sometimes you could try too hard and I can do this, I can get it done, and then you're just running around in circles, which of course is not efficient, but then also it's kind of compressing and stymieing your creativity, your flow, your growth, and you feel like you're doing a lot because you're busy, but you're not accomplishing it because you're distracted, and you also are not allowing yourself to kind of go, ooh, that might be a good idea right here. So I think that there's a lot of things that tie into that mindset, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I don't think that we take good enough care of ourselves. I think we undervalue our own opinions, which is why we're listening to the outside world and we stay so busy. And then that we don't actually take really good care of ourselves, like sleep in or take a nap or relax and go to the beach with our family on, during the weekday. Yeah. I don't think we allow ourselves this compassion. And when we do that and we take better care of ourselves, everything around us just works better. Our business works better. Our health we just magically just start eating better and taking better care of our health, and our relationships improve. So I think that it's about that time with yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, let's wrap up with what's the best way that people can reach out and connect with you if they've listened to this and feel like, there might be some opportunity to connect and get some clarity around their personal and professional lives. How can they reach out and connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. I have a website, NicholeCarlson.com, and they can go on there and check that out. I have a webinar right now, how to 10X your life and get the passion you crave, which is off on my website. And then I also have my Facebook page, and I have a show where I talk to guests about once a week, and it's called Flip the Switch. So just search for that in Facebook, and they can connect with me either of those three ways.
Awesome. Well, Nichole, thanks so much for coming on. It was really great talking to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you too.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.